Afternoon everybody, how we doing? These weeks are flying by, aren't they? It seems only just like a couple of days ago I was talking to you. It's a week. Can't believe it. Been very, very busy, but I'll tell you about that after. Let's show you today's block first. Yeah, I had a bright idea. I did. Thought something nice and quick because I'm behind on my own work. You can see the other blocks behind me here. So I thought we'll do Snowball. Nice and simple. Love it. Like the idea of Snowball. So there we are. All it is basically a square with corners on the edges. Yeah, lovely. And we traditionally your centre they would keep white or pale. Next to that little block they would have a 9-patch block. Okay, so it would be Snowball 9-patch, Snowball 9-patch all over your quilt traditionally. We're not going to do that. We're going to do the Snowball parts. And I thought, well, actually, they'll do as nice little infills because we've got odd sizes going on behind us, haven't we? So we need a few odd infills. So I thought, well, we'll do 4 of them just for the hell of it. And I started doing, and then I realised that there's several ways of doing this. And as I'm always saying, there's no rights or wrongs, and we all work differently, and it's whatever suits you. Lovely. So I then thought, well, I'll show you what I do, which is, I don't know if anybody else does it. I haven't got a clue. So what you could do if you're doing by hand is dead simple. You just do yourself a square template, cut your corners off, draw around, that's your sewing line, add your corners back on. What I would say, just one word of warning, once you've sort of dismembered the square, for want of a better expression, these triangles, when you're trying to put it back together, I have seen in class where you're trying to put that on this bit. They are 2 different lengths. So you've got sort of 2 different, this octagonal shape in the centre has 2 different sizes. So the side ones are shorter than the corner ones. So if you think it's not fitting, don't worry. Move it around one and you'll probably find it's fine. All right, so just a word of warning on that one. Accuracy as ever is everything. All right, so make sure you get your 1/4 inch seam allowance and everything on there. Lovely. So these blocks are going to be 6 inches finished. Okay, now how I do mine, I cut my 6-inch square plus seam allowance, so I'm cutting 6.5-inch squares. Okay, and then I cut triangles and then I sew them onto my square. If you can see that, so they've been sewn onto the square. So then what happens is you fold them back. Okay, I cut away the excess underneath and then I trim my square back to square, because the triangles that I cut and put on, I always make sure they're a little bit bigger than I need, because it's very easy for them to be fractionally off and not quite right. So I always do slightly bigger than I need that I can trim back. Now how do I work that out? Right, so we started off with a 6-inch square. So I've just marked it 2, 2, 2 all the way around in my mind, as it were. So you're splitting it into 3. But we've got a seam allowance in the way of it all, haven't we? So what do we do with that? Right, okay. So hopefully I've taken a photo of all of this as well, so that I can show you. Right, so I've drawn it on one of them. You don't need to put your 1/4 inch seam allowance around, but I've done it just so that you can see how I've worked it out. Okay, so I've got my 1/4 inch seam allowance going on, and then I mark where does it need to be. Okay, well, I actually want a line across here. I don't know if you can see that. So across here, and I need to get it square. All right, so I measure up on this particular block because it's 6 inches. All right, I've measured up 2.25 inches because I've had to add the seam allowance on. Yeah, so I mark it here and here. Okay, so that when I lay my piece of fabric across, I've got something to guide, and then it's like, well, actually that's my sewing line, so how am I going to get to that? So I've also got a 2-inch mark. Okay, so I've got a 2-inch and a 2.25 inch. If you get your triangles and you lay them, because they've got to go right sides together. Okay, and then if you lay them, I'm going to bring this right up close. okay, if you lay them that they cross over on the first set of measurements, which is 2 inch by 2 inch, you can then just machine straight the way across, and that'll give it you where you need it. All right, and that will have taken into account the fact that you need 1/4 of an inch and it's going to turn itself back over. All right, sounds good. Have a go, it'll be fine. So I've laid it across, I've stitched it across, and then I'm opening it back to there, and you can see it's actually quite a bit bigger, which is absolutely fine. So then I remove the excess white from underneath, and then I trim. All right, so here are mine. Need a press. You can tell I've just done them quick, can't you? All right, so I've done them all different. There's the yellow one. And now I'm just going to do this one with you, if that makes sense. So I marked my 2 inches on the sides. Okay, so I had a 2 inch mark there and there so that I could put that across on the 2 inches. All right, I've cut 3 inch squares and cut them into triangles. All right, so it's a 6.5 inch big square, 2 3 inch squares cut into triangles. I've measured in 2 inches, and then that's allowed me to place it, and then I've stitched. Okay, so that gives you your seam allowances. All right, hopefully this is making sense. So then I'll get my cutter, and I just quickly whip off. Do stand up if you need to do this. You should be really. I'm having back moments. So, oh look, that didn't even cut at all. So hence, and also if you're not stood up, you've not got your pressures right, like that, it all goes a bit wrong. So as I'm always saying, do as I say, don't do as I do. Yeah, always good. So we're just gonna chop all them off. Do stand up. It's only because my back's bad at the minute that I'm not standing up, so I'm just doing that, and also because actually the camera's in the right direction here that you can see hopefully a little bit of what I'm doing. Right, okay, so I'm now looking like that because I've just taken the white off. Right, it would be ideal at this point to go and press it, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to finger press it. So basically I'm turning it where I need it, and I'm running my nail really hard. Having said that, quite hard in short little bits, because what you don't want to do is stretch it too much. Yeah, because like I'm always on about me triangles and me bias cuts. You're on 2 bias cuts there, and it'll stretch, so you don't want that, because come the end it'll not all look lovely. Right, okay, so now you can see I've got that on there, but it's actually fractionally too big. Now in real life type stuff, you'd think, oh, 2.5 inch square will do that, lovely, do. Actually, now that it's sewn and it's turned over, that's less than a 1/4 of an inch excess. Yeah, which just goes to prove how much disappears in the doing sometimes. So I'm fortunate. I'm going to say I am fortunate. I have got a 6.5 inch template here. So I'm just going to line that up on my block and trim my block. Right, so that's taken the excess off of 2 sides. I always then turn it. I don't ever do any more than 2 unless I've got a rotating cutting mat on me, because the last thing you need to do is be taking your fingers off whilst you're going and yeah. So there we go, there's that and that. And the other thing, and those of you that come to my classes, you know this, I scream at you all the time, make sure you put your blades away always when you put it down. Nothing worse than just going to grab it and you've got all cuts, and these things can be lethal, especially if you've got a new blade in there. So anyway, so there's my last one, now actually trimmed to size, says she, and there's a bit hanging on there, we'll get rid of that. 6.5 by 6.5, ready to play. So we've actually now got, I've got 4 there. Okay, well, let's do them like that, because I've done, me being me and weird, I've done 2 the same and 2 odd, but there we go. So that's a very simple snowball. Now they're ready when you add them together. that'll take 1/4 of an inch off, and your sides will come back looking lovely then, to the same width. If that does that make sense? Yeah, there we go. So there we go. So I think that actually looks quite nice as a block, but as I say, they would traditionally have put some 9 patches in there. Could have been all sorts of odds and sods coming in. All right, and then that would, yeah, so then they would all be split up. Never know, maybe we'll do that next week. I need to suss a few sizes over behind me first to see what we're needing. So I'm recommending, I could be wrong, mind, we need 4 of these. All right, we'll go with 4 of these. I've got a sort of plan in my mind, but I've not. I've got a half a plan, and it's not even a half a plan. But yeah, so I just know we're going to need some different sizes to fill things in, so that might be quite nice. Where these are traditional and white in the centre, there's actually an awful lot of white going on, isn't there? So if you're not a fan of white, you could actually use this to showcase a really nice piece of your fabric. So like fussy cut that centerpiece and then frame it with what excuse me, whatever fabric you fancy. I reckon that could look nice, and perhaps better, I've gone pale purposely so that you can see what's going on and what would have been traditional. Yeah, I can remember making one of these years and years ago. Good fun. I haven't specifically done a snowball quilt properly for years, but there we are. Oh, there's another piece hanging off. So there we go. So anyway, so there we are. That's this week's block, and that's block number 7, and we're going to have 4 of them. All right, Witter Quilt 8, various sized traditional patchwork. Okay. So what else have I got to tell you today? It's not very lovely out there, although it's warmer, and that's nice, isn't it? We've had a couple of lovely days this week. Tommy is fast asleep in his bed just in front of me here. Fast asleep, bless. Oh, he's starting to, maybe he's not fast asleep. He's starting he's doing this, so he's listening to me and he knows he's being spoken about. That's cute. This week has all been about making samples for me. So as I say, I apologise we're now to once a week, but I do have an awful lot of other stuff to do. All the samples for Hochanda are now completed. I say that. I've got tatty bits to do on 2 of them, and then it'll be done. I've just now got to write hundreds of patterns and inserts and all sorts of stuff. So this week is going to be a week of writing patterns, and it'll take me at least a week to do, well, there's 9 inserts, I think. That's going to take me all week at least. So that's me done. I don't know what you're all doing. Hopefully you're all well. I've seen this week over in Witterings on Facebook, several of you have put up some cracking photos of stuff you're producing. Thank you so much. We do like to see and share what we're all doing. It inspires others. It gives other people ideas. You know, I don't advocate copying, but inspirationals is fabulous, and I do like to see them. Thank you very much indeed. Back to 3 things. Tidying ain't happening. Certainly not happening with my back at the minute, that's for sure. Exercise, that's not happening either for me. I get up and walk around the cupboard and stagger back to my chair, and that's about it for the minute. But never mind, that's life. It'll get better. And the other one, hello all your friends and anybody that might need a quick hello, how are you, and all the rest of it. Do make sure you keeping in touch. I was very briefly on a Zoom meeting yesterday with the Quilters Guild. That was lovely for Region 4, our region. Everybody there having a little chat and a cup of coffee and looking at each other's sewing rooms, which was fantastic to see everybody's setups. I couldn't do the whole meeting though, because again I was a bit busy, so I did an hour, which was lovely. Well, I think 50 minutes, maybe something like that. A big cup of coffee's worth and half of me baby cup. See, I've got a baby cup, and it's got the thingy, so if it falls over on my table, because I shouldn't really have drinks on my table, it doesn't do too much damage, and I am hopeless. Anne gave me that's really rather nice. So my baby cup, my beaker, we like my beaker. Yeah, so anyway, say hello to everybody, make sure everybody's well and happy, and have a lovely week. Do message me if you've got any questions or queries, because this is a bit of an odd one. If in doubt, just go back to your basic simple of cut your shapes, put them together, stitch. Yeah, don't be doing fancy things if it's not your way of working, okay? Just because I do it one way doesn't mean to say it's the only way or the right positive only, you know, just what suits you. There we go. Fabulous. I'm going to say, be lovely.